Okay, here is my argument for why you should stop giving a fuck. Bear with me on this one because I am not talking about burning your entire life to the ground and giving everyone the finger. Although I would say that there are definitely some moments in life when that is the correct response. But I want to talk about this because in all the years that I have been coaching and also in my own life, I've noticed that there often comes a point where people will say something like, I just don't care anymore. Sometimes they're kind of scared to say it because it sounds like you are giving up or you're becoming careless with your life or the people who are in it. But that's not actually what this usually means. When I hear someone say this, when I've heard myself say it, it's not usually because you've stopped caring about your life. And what you actually tend to mean is that you have stopped caring about whatever has been controlling you over the years. So, for example, this could mean that you no longer care about getting everyone's approval or about proving yourself. Maybe you just don't give a fuck anymore about looking successful to other people. Maybe it's that you no longer care about being understood by people who honestly never really tried to understand you in the first place. And every time I hear someone say those words, I know that something has been kind of burned through in terms of what was really keeping them stuck. Because when you get to a point of not giving a fuck, you are not giving up. You're actually becoming free. Hello and welcome to Notes on Vulnerability. I'm Alex and I'm a resilience coach. And I am here to help you find freedom from whatever is keeping you stuck right now so that you can actually thrive at life. I work with the mind and the nervous system to help make changing your life feel really simple and really fucking satisfying. This is the final solo episode in Notes on Vulnerability Season 4. We have talked about burnout this season. We've talked about shame and boundaries, the nervous system, emotions, identity, all sorts of things alongside some incredible guests from barristers through to the world's strongest disabled woman. But honestly, underneath every single one of those conversations, there has always been one burning question. What do we actually give a fuck about? What are you giving a fuck about? It's kind of the question when it comes to growing as a human being, because it's determining what you direct your focus and energy towards every single day. And what we focus on, we tend to get more of. I don't think personal growth has ever really been about becoming calmer or stronger or more resilient or more confident. It's actually about becoming more selective about what really deserves your energy, so that you can take more of a driving seat in your life, feel less powerless and more able to influence what we can influence. Think about a child. Children really give a fuck about survival. That's what they are focused on. Will my mum come back? Is my dad afraid? Am I safe? Do they love me? Then we get older and our brains evolve and we get blessed with an inner critic. And perhaps we have to adapt to the people around us in order to sustain attachment. So we start developing adaptive behaviors that take us away from ourselves and who we really are. And we start to have different priorities. So we start giving a fuck about things like fitting in, for example, or being liked, or not being laughed at, or not getting things wrong. We start really giving a fuck about being the clever one, the good one, the reliable one, the successful one, the useful one. And unfortunately, sometimes that means that we stop asking ourselves the question, what actually matters to me? Because what will make people accept me can seem to be the more important question at that moment. Honestly, that even though so many of us end up doing this, me included, it's a terrible trade to make because acceptance is addictive. There will always be one more person whose approval you will need, or one more milestone you need to achieve before you can feel good about yourself, or one more achievement, or one more thing to prove. And before you know it, you are 45 years old, lying awake in the middle of the night, worrying about what someone you met 5 years ago who still follows you on Instagram thinks of what you said last Tuesday in your post. That's not freedom, which means it's not being truly mature. Because as long as your focus is still tied to what other people might think or judge or need, you're still making yourself as powerless as that child who needed those things to survive. We do need other people in our lives for sure, I'm not denying that, and our nervous systems need other people too. But belonging is what creates genuine connection, and that comes from being yourself and being accepted for who you are, not from curating yourself so that you fit in with people. One of the biggest misconceptions I think there is about not giving a fuck that we really need to get over is the idea that it's about becoming somebody selfish. And I've seen this work in both ways. I've seen it put people off, and I've seen some people run with the idea of being selfish like it's a permission slip to become a horrible person. It's really not. This is not about stopping caring. It's actually about changing what you care about. And these swaps are really important. So for example, you stop caring about whether everyone approves of you and you start caring about whether you approve of yourself. Or you stop caring about winning every argument and you start caring about your peace. Or you stop caring about looking impressive and you actually start caring about being authentic instead. Or you stop caring about never disappointing anybody and you start caring about never abandoning yourself. These shifts are what I'm talking about, and they are completely different to being a selfish a-hole. They are also what I think becoming an adult really is. You know, the idea of adulthood is heavily associated with performative life milestones and things that don't actually say that much about our personal growth. And most of those milestones can still be achieved with a lot of immaturity, paying taxes, getting married, owning a house, having children. They are not always, or even often, genuine evidence of maturity when you really examine them. You know, I think we all know people who prove that to be the case. Maybe you even grew up with them like I did. I actually think real adulthood is developing enough authority over yourself that fear is no longer the strongest thing that drives you. Sure, fear gets heard, but it doesn't kind of get to chair the meeting, if you like. And I think this idea of what it really means to be an adult, to be grown up, to be mature gets thrown off because so many people look like adults, but they don't feel like it. They've got all the external markers, but internally they are still organized around fear. They still care most about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of conflict, fear of not being enough, fear of disappointing people, or fear of being seen, for example. Maybe it's the fear of being too much that's driving them. You know, fear is exhausting. And when fear is running your life, it doesn't actually matter how successful you become. You will still feel like you're asking the world for permission just to exist. It was one of my clients who said something in a recent coaching session that really stuck with me and inspired me to make this episode because it's not the first time I've heard it. And she said, you know, I don't know what's happened. I just don't care anymore. And it was the way that she said it with this kind of hesitancy, like she wasn't quite sure if she should say it or if it was a good thing or a bad thing or if something awful would happen if she did say it. But she wasn't talking about her relationships or her work or her ambitions. She meant that she no longer cared about the opinions of people that she had spent years trying to impress. She had also spent years waiting to feel like this by altering her external circumstances to try and make that happen. You know, whether that related to how she looked, the job she had, or how much she earned. None of those things had ever changed how she felt about trying to impress other people. What did change it was the coaching sessions we did, even though nothing external in her life changed during our coaching sessions, but she did. This is the moment that I wish for every single client and honestly every person listening to this, because it is so incredibly liberating and we all deserve to be free from fear. And I want this for everyone, not because I want us to become detached, but because I want us to become less easy to manipulate. Because the moment that someone can no longer control you with shame or guilt or approval or criticism, you are free. And the funny thing with all of this is that when you stop giving a fuck about proving yourself to other people, you usually perform better anyway, right? When you stop giving a fuck about looking confident to other people, you tend to be more confident. When you stop giving a fuck about being perfect, you become more creative. When you stop giving a fuck about everyone liking you, then the right people finally get to meet the real you. And it's kind of made me think about, you know, maybe this is actually what resilience is. Not becoming tougher or learning to tolerate more stress in your life, but finally deciding that there are some things that you are no longer willing to organize your life around. Fear being one of them. So here is the question that I would like to leave you with today. If you were no longer controlled by fear, what would you stop giving a fuck about? And what would finally become important enough that you did give a fuck about it? Because I don't think the goal is to stop caring here. I think the goal is to care so deeply about the right things that the wrong things just kind of lose their grip. So I hope this episode has ignited a little spark of freedom somewhere and shown you where and how not giving a fuck can actually be so liberating and constructive. If you'd like to light yourself up even more, then come and book an intro call with me and we'll have a chat about what can change in order to set you free with this kind of mindset shift. You'll also find more of this with me on Instagram at Alex Resilience Coach and online at shore-coaching.com. Thank you for listening to the solo episodes of another season of Notes on Vulnerability, and I will see you in the next one.
Resilience isn't about avoiding stress, it's about meeting it with strength. This adaptogenic trio is called our chill mix for a reason. Our award-winning calm and collected formula is a favourite among people with busy, anxious brains. I have combined lion's mane, ashwagandha and holy basil with sea greens to ease your racing mind and calm a jittery body. Consistency is key when it comes to adaptogens, so make calm and collected part of your evening ritual for calm, resilience and rest.